My name is Margaret Fitzgibbon. I'm an Irish artist. I guess I've been practicing quite many decades now. My first degree was in 1985, so I'm spanning these different decades of art progression as well, which has changed quite remarkably. So with that in mind, I went back when I was older artist to do an MA and then consequently a PhD, which all finished around 2013. I originally trained in sculpture, but over these periods of time, I'm now working across many different mediums. It depends on the project, really. I also, from time to time, work with communities. Depends again on the project, and this is where my feminism or my interest in women would come in. I've worked with women in refuge. I've worked on different projects with suffragette, pulling out the histories of different invisible women in Ireland. I got into teaching really through just practical means to begin with. I needed a job, and I was asked in the local gallery, the municipal gallery, if I'd like to work with, put together a programme for young people. So I did, and that was my first taste of it. That was 1987. And I suppose when I went back and did my MA and I got more fully qualified, I was then able to teach on MA courses and design more substantial third level courses. So I now work with the National College of Art and Design. I run a drawing and sculpture course and also a contemporary collage workshop. Growing up and being a young artist in the 1980s in Ireland was a very barren time in terms of, you know, having inspiration of international female artists because they just weren't taught in the college. And we had a totally male tutoring system in our college at that time, right through the 80s and into the early 90s. You know what they say, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So that was, it was problematic. Now, amongst us women in the courses, of course, we were always giving out and saying this is outrageous and everything, and there should be more attention paid. There are women, this was the 80s. I mean, there had been the whole, second wave movement. I mean, where was it? It wasn't being taught on our curriculum. We were still looking at Picasso, for God's sake, and Manet and Monet, and, we were sick of it, And the sculptors the same. I mean, they were good sculptors, Brancusi, everybody. They were inspirational, but, I mean, they weren't women, and so we couldn't see ourselves reflected. I was very much interested in female themes of the body, the relationships with the world, the relationships with nature. I always felt that they were different. Instinctively, I felt women have and it's not, we all have the same human relationship, of course, with the world, that's given, but I do feel that if women have, it's you know it when you live it, it's a different relationship, and I wanted to explore that, really, and find ways of mirroring that out into the world, find different language for it. I was deeply moved by women's artists' women life stories. How did they survive it? How did they fund it? I was always interested in how they got by. Because I was a single mum as well. I had my daughter in 1983. And so I had to make a living as well, So it was important to me to try and navigate these waters. And there wasn't really any handbook. There was nowhere to tell you to be a woman, to be a mother, and to be an artist. I mean, putting these three things together, how do you do that? In the 80s, in the college I first went to in Cork, they used to call me, for example, the little mother. The little mother is late today. I mean, there was such sexism everywhere. It was just rife. And if you wanted to do a project on a female artist, you had to really convince them that this was, important. Even working with your own body, which a lot of us were doing at that time. Well, a few of us in the sculpture department. You always felt so incredibly, exposed and vulnerable because they were all male tutors, and they were not open. And they were just swaggering around, quite frankly. It was a struggle. I'd forgotten that. You know, you forget because you don't always go back there. And and definitely, even if it wasn't, even if there wasn't that much obvious information there from other women's lives, even one story of one woman going it alone and doing it and being an artist was enough for you, actually, because you didn't need to know there was hundreds, because just, it's amazing how just one example can set you going. It was a positive experience for me, feminism, in those early years that I spoke about in art college, because we felt empowered by the idea that there was this movement, even though we couldn't really, see it. It was quite almost sort of ephemeral in Ireland at that time. I mean, we had our, political women, and we had our fight for contraception. So we were, there were strong women in our society. And I always felt it was a really positive thing. I mean, for me, it's just that I didn't actually join any, movement. Because again, for me, it was always enacted through my art practice. I'm much more aware now that it's a much broader political issue now. And of course, now I have a granddaughter as well, so it's even become back again for me to sort of question, where are we going today? I am really, really conscious that when I present my programs or my workshops or design my art tutoring to include, if not as many, but more female artists. I always err on the side, and I'm always pointing out, I find the female artists, even if there are less of them in certain areas, I will say, now, this is an example of printmaking through a female lens. This is an example. I just include them all the time. I don't necessarily call it feminism all the time, but I am indoctrinating them, actually, in my own way. I'm saying to them, this is very important, and that the art world, like the society around us, is incredibly, unequal. Go and look, go and find, and make sure you're getting both sides of the story, because it's important. And I think there's authentic reasons why women are in there. It's not just because they're making up something to be cool. I think it's because their experiences of the world, whether it's from intersectional feminism, maybe it's from different ethnicities or different economic backgrounds, are absolutely vital. They hold different knowledges because they're women, whether it's with child rearing or with living in low economic I've seen some extraordinary projects recently, actually, for an example, in Liverpool Biennale, only last month. There was this fantastic short film made by a young Liverpool artist who worked with a community of young, very young mums, single mums in Liverpool from different backgrounds. And they had come together into this house. They didn't live there overnight, but they came on a regular basis to workshop together to share their experiences. And basically what she did, they were low economic background, was she went with her camera and she set up in there when they were chatting, when they were having their get-togethers, to listen to their way that they supported each other. It was very positive. It wasn't negative. It wasn't the usual, these struggling women and they've really, no way out. It actually showed another familial construct, which was that they were living without men in their lives and they were supporting each other, and their female friendships were love. That was their family. So they had each other and they had their children and they had this group, and they were recognizing that in a very deep kind of feminist way, that they were creating new families, their friendships that they had formed, the trust they had in each other. And they knew that their children as well, it was intergenerational, so their children were getting to know each other at that young age, and they were becoming best friends as well. I thought it was an extraordinarily powerful piece of artwork. We need to start really thinking about other ways of being together. Whether it's the family construct, whether it's the community construct. Yeah, because, we're changing all the time, and we have to stop thinking all the time in the negative, that everything that isn't traditional is somehow negative. It's not always. It can be incredibly extraordinarily celebratory as well.